Okay, so 5 o'clock, ding. All right, so we'll call to order. The December meeting of the Conservation Commission at 5 o'clock, and we'll do the roll call. We'll start on my left.
Tom Olson, member.
Member.
Larry Dunn, chair.
Ray Rafferty, vice chair.
Bishop's Patrick, secretary.
And
And
I'm-
oh.
Yeah.
And
Very good, thank you. And could
progress.
you promote me?
Sorry,
Me
that's
too.
my bad. Oh, now you're both on, okay,
Okay.
you got it.
Okay, so, join this panel, there we go. Oops. Back to here. All right, next order of business is approval of minutes from November 7th.
Move that we approve the minutes.
I second.
Is there any discussions or clarifications or comments? If not, we'll move the question. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain.
And one abstain. So our vice chair abstained, he's not here, so. All right, moving right along, public communications. We had lots last time. And I think we have nobody.
They learned their lesson last
They
night.
learned their lesson. So, participants, four.
Those are us for
Right, So we have, although I think scattered about, there are some inputs that we've gotten over the month, and we'll get to that. The next item, I think I'm following what the published agenda was the open space protection motion.
Oh, it's the kinetic.
Oh, can I have it? Yeah, fine. Let's see, let me,
Got the agenda.
yeah.
I need to,
Connecticut College project ideas.
I've seen. Let me see if I can get it.
Oh, that is next. I can't read. Good go.
So Jen and I worked on the list that we all talked about. And came up with a little bit of a descriptor and then what we think the students might do with it. And so what I'd like from all of you is, I have to figure out, I'm not sure how, oh, there we go.
Was this in the agenda packet?
No.
No, we just finished it, 2 days ago.
Steve, that didn't quite have it done for the package, so.
Right. However, but it can, it'll be in the next one, or we can send it out. But basically, and maybe if you don't, obviously you don't want everybody spending the whole time today reading it, I will send it. Just a heads up. So what we need from commissioners is to look through it and see, this is Jen's best guess of trying to mesh what the students could do with what we might want. So it's going to be a little bit of back and forth to nail down, but if we didn't capture accurately what you think you'd like the students to do for that project, please add it. And so what will happen, and I'll scroll, so you have the Earth Day, I'll just go them one by one. So the one thing is to organize that Earth Day fair. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to be one of the points of contact for everything, but then I'd like a second point of contact. Yeah, I kind of figured you'd be the Earth Day one, right?
If we're having a big organization.
Two eyes, KRIST. Okay, and then, so one was that, and the idea is we have to define what we'd expect from the students. And then the other thing is what their final report, like they have to have some kind of report or something that's gonna be graded on. They do a presentation, so that's like, usually they do some kind of written report and presentation. But obviously if there's physical stuff going on with it, then maybe their grade, that their physical stuff gets to be part of the grade.
Listen, we could talk about separately, like the details of that probably.
Yes, that's what, right, that's what I'm saying is this,
So
I'm just,
maybe you and myself and the
right.
other.
But what I'm just saying for all of, giving kind of the overview, what the information we're looking for to help Jen flesh this out. So basically those kind of details, for missing something you want the students to do, what kind of a result you would want from them. And then so we still have our January meeting, we can talk more detail, right? February is when she'll be meeting with the students, so the class starts end of January. So we might even still have the February meeting for us to keep discussing, or to have Jen back maybe one more time before she presents this to the students, and one of us, I'll definitely be there, and maybe somebody else want to join, when we do presentation to the students to answer questions. So basically, she'll present, here's all the ideas for projects, the possible ideas, and the students look at them and they then sign up for the things that they think they want. And then we work out with each of the students exactly what they'll be doing. Because they may read this and say, well, yeah, maybe that, but how about if I do like this? They sometimes have really good ideas that we didn't even think of, right? So,
You envision that they would participate in the Earth Day event itself?
help to plan it, actually.
But I went further, I mean, actually.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea is that we,
That they be, I see it's personal involvement. would be
yeah, and they help with the setup, help with,
Right, right.
greeting the vendor, like be, liaisons with the vendors or what.
Right,
But that's what we
okay.
define what we think we would like for them to do. And then it's kind of a negotiation after that.
Can I ask, is this going to be part of a larger fair? Or are we doing something totally?
Well, this is the one, what Kristen brought up, the one
We're
that,
having a big Earth Day fair with the Diddy Bag in Mystic. It's gonna be at the Groton Library, and we might have gone over details last week, but it's gonna be a large regional fair with probably 8 to 10 guest speakers and all kinds of vendors and
In the library.
booths in and out, indoors and outdoors.
Thank you.
so that was the first one. And then the next one was helping to design and create our booth. So we were talking about us creating a traveling booth so they could help with that process, however we want that to happen. And we could, beta test the booth at that Earth.
You say it's the next ones of.
Exactly, exactly. They're connected, yes. And then the third one was the pollinators. So Kristen, you want to also be for the this one, and then I'm guessing Larry's going to be the model.
Yeah. We 1 of 12 with economics, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, but these are environmental studies people, so
Yeah, I'm scratching my head at that, saying, huh?
okay. And then the Wolfbrook invasive species survey. Obviously, we need a lot of somebody teaching them what to do with that. But and we have to figure out how they could do it. So there might be a lot of discussion on that one, exactly how we get them to do it.
Maybe we can lean on Megan.
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna suggest she could be like an intern, like she could have an intern or
Is it
something.
MEGAN
be a-
or
Yes,
MEGAN?
no,
She could be a like an advisor.
advisor, I would, not to do the work, but.
No, to have an intern with her or.
Help figure out what would go with that. The Baker's Cove management plan to basically work with that, and I'm gonna ask maybe Tom if you would be one of the liaisons for that. I mean, as I said, I'm gonna be in all of these for sure, because I'm
This
connected
is
with the
great.
students.
This is really great. Michelle.
And then finally, the social media. And there's tons of possible things that they could end up doing with this. And in fact, this may be one of the biggest. And the other one of the things there, so I don't know, since you're the website person, Larry, do you want to be on that, or is there somebody else who wants to do social media?
I can do that. I think the only thing we have to be careful as we go here, we can't have more than 3 people, so.
Right, but with each group, we're not gonna all meet together. We
No,
each make,
that's what you might, if you organize it, just as long as it's not 3 of us, more than 3.
so basically, this is I came up with so far. It's not a closed table by any mean. If we think of something, somebody think like Rayanna, you weren't part of these discussions yet, so you might have some ideas. We can certainly add them on and go over do this again in January. We did again in January for the details.
Next
So
meeting.
next meeting is January.
So anyway, so that's what this is all about. It's just, Jen's gonna help us try to figure out what makes sense for the students, and we have to figure out what makes sense for us, and then somehow get the two connected together.
And keep it contained.
Well, yeah, because they have the next
Right.
semester. Yeah, but the really cool thing is that this is, this class happens every year, so we can do this ad infinitum until we run out of things for them to do.
It'll peel off not necessarily do all at once.
Right.
Let's do a little.
One thing is, we're not guaranteed that there's gonna be student interest in all these either.
Correct.
These could some fall right on the ground.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely letting them pick the thing that they, they have to pick something. So if. And we're shooting for 2 to 3 in a group, and there's 12 of them. So anywhere from, 4 to 6 groups. So if we're lucky, we'll get somebody on each one.
It might make sense to meet with, let's say you, me, Jen, the leader, and perhaps like Jason, who's really the core coordinator. Because maybe if they met with us and saw the enthusiasm and that might spark, like if you just give them a list and they're like, but maybe,
Well, no, we're gonna go to their class.
yeah, okay.
So they're gonna see, Jen will give this ahead of time, but don't, some of us, the subcommittee, or whoever, whoever 3 people can make it, will attend the class when she
Vice versa,
presents
yeah.
and answer questions and like give them some idea of here's what the conservation committee does. So that, so that they know, we have more of the context.
There's somebody else at Con College who's involved, who's on the kind of the primary core group of planning the eco fair. And what is her name? Well, I can come back
Right,
with
but it's
that.
also possible to find other colleges, because there's a whole fellows, a whole group of fellows that work with the students, that are their advisors for different projects and stuff. So, and the environmental economist is going to help with the model one. He agreed to that, to be part of that discussion. So, this is just, once you guys see how this works, I'm sure the ideas will start like flying. I haven't even been in.
It's stuff we need to do. It's stuff we need to do anyway. So any
Exactly.
assistance we get is
Right,
is
and
great.
basically free help, and the students
And they're gonna get credit.
can be really good.
Yeah.
So this could be a major long-term benefit for us, having these students every year.
And they're close.
They're close.
And you're not competing against other organizations, which is really huge.
And
Like,
it could be a draw for that, like maybe, I don't know how many students in the whole program, but like you're gonna get
Well,
selected.
12 a year, basically. It's
Okay.
every year there's 12. So,
Okay,
anyway, so that's,
that's great.
yep, we
You're
don't
gonna
need to
send
do
that to
details
us?
now.
But, no, but we're gonna provide that page,
You,
right? So I should put it in the minutes,
Mhm.
but at
okay,
least, that page with
Got it.
the action that says at our January meeting that the commission will review that input and I don't think of timing. Because of the holidays, et cetera. Would it be possible before a January commission meeting? Or after that to actually meet with the college?
after, for sure.
The
Everybody's on break.
February meeting
Yeah,
is when we would actually make some decisions
Right.
about, okay, so that's how we've got to stack it up then.
yeah, I tried to.
And that's only 2 months before.
I gotta figure this out,
Yeah, I
because
know,
I've been
that's what I'm
done, so
saying.
I'm not gonna send this right now, because I don't know how.
Any of us could crank this out, go buy a table and
We'll
whatever.
take care of it later.
and just remember too about the January meeting. So the January meeting, second is a holiday, so it's on the 9th.
On the 9th, so we got a little.
Oh, you know what, I need to get your information, my email, because I don't think I have.
Right. You can get that.
Send it to
Okay.
Larry. Maybe we should all,
Well,
we should send it to all of us.
yeah, we can get it sent. to
Well, I can,
everybody.
send it to me, or send it to me, I'll get it to Dave
Okay,
and make sure that
that's what I was thinking, yeah.
what our process has been that if there's really homework, work in process, that we kind of do send it out to everybody. And then it winds up in the record at some point. Right now it's on the record because it's televised, it's Zoom.
Right, okay,
Okay,
so there you go.
all right, this next one's a fun one. So as you know, in our prior commission, the commission approved Tom and I to present to the town council. Which is online and one can go look at it. It ran an hour.
Oh, you went back again
Oh,
after the
yes.
time we were
Yes.
together?
When it got tabled, you were here when it
I
got
was
tabled.
tabled, yeah,
And then we went back the following Tuesday. And we didn't redo the presentation, but we answered questions.
Right, and it was another hour.
It was another hour, but Larry did most of the questioning. I only answered, I think, one
So
question.
your voice was.
They were pointing at me a lot.
He had a speech impairment, I
Yeah,
guess.
I couldn't talk very well.
But the sense of it was, when it all boiled down, there was a division on the council. And the vote went against protecting those two parcels. Basically because we want to reserve it, so in the future, we can use that to trade off for other lands that we want to use. And it's kind of like, it's like, well, wait a minute, you can't take, basically it's a preserved land, because by definition, it's counted as open space and it's a preserved category. We'll get to that in a second. Because it's being used for open space purposes, trails, et cetera, already on there. And it's just, it's a fake transfer. So that will get everyone up in arms, I'm sure, right? Because you can't sell it. So the only value it has, they think, is, oh gee, I want to take, the property right over here behind us and strip it away and put another building there. And we'll give you these two parcels and legally protect them in lieu of that. The answer is no. Right, so that'll be a fight when and if that happens. So what it did do is crystallized in my mind that during the conversations, I can't remember which meeting it was, we got the question again, well, how much open space do we have? And we answer, oh, it depends. I'm tired of saying it depends. So what they said in terms of the bank, or what we term vacant property, is that, and I'm kind of leaking to another topic of open space definition, kind of got down to the fact that the state's definition is protected, which is legally protected, preserved, which means it's used as open space, although it's not legally protected. And then everything else, right? Or vacant is so Tom went through and did his dash and put in a couple more columns and put it preserved, protected, and vacant based upon that, which makes it a lot simpler, because even though it doesn't exactly line up with the 2016 PLCD, we are going to lobby. We said this before, so we'll say it in public. But the commission is going to lobby that the definitions line up with the state definitions, and end this endless debate about how much open space we have. So we can say we have so much protected open space, we have so much state recognized, preserved, plus protected open space, and the rest is other stuff.
Golf course is neither.
The golf course is not in that
That's
category.
commercial.
Right?
Yes, neither.
So, so that's kind of that came out of that. So in some sense, it was disappointing because we thought it was a slam dunk going in. But on the other hand, it kind of, in my mind, forces the issue that we need to kind of push the definitions and get things, lined up and in place. So it kind of fits our game plan for the 2026 POCD, and that's where we're driving for. So we've got the baseline. After that meeting, as a result of that and Tom's work, we then met with staff, which is Deb and Dave, and went over that matrix. There's a few tweaks in there. They're kind of doing a secondary check or tertiary or whatever the hell check we're up to, just to make sure we're all in line. And so the agreement is that we'll at least have a tabularized data set, which we now agree to. Now, the viewer is based upon that data set. Right? We've talked to Noah about getting additional views of protected versus, and that gets a little more work intensive. So we kind of said, look, let's get the table done, get that all agreed to, and we can use that. And the viewer, to me, is icing on the cake, get, per presentation value of it. So we'll get to that when the IT department can get to that. But the first one is to get the data right. Right, so we all agreed to that. I would hope that by the end of by the end of this year, we're gonna have an agreed to. I'm trying to think of the right word, not initial. Current table, because we know properties come and go, foreclosures come and go, stuff changes. When we get into the easement stuff, some of that, the bigger easements need to be carved out and changed on GIS because it's not there. I mean, so there are some nuances and changes that need to be done. But at least we have now a stake in the ground that we can then answer the question going forward, right? And then have debates and rally the community, if in fact it goes this way versus that way.
One thing I'd just like to minor clarifications to him. One is database, we have their inventory, which had all the open space in accordance with the definitions of the POCD. Which was really when we started this whole thing back in 2019, was our driving force, because that was a follow-on action from our open space conservation plan actions. Then what I've done too, is to take a look at just town-owned parcels, and then cross-reference those to see if, so here's the things that were not open space items in accordance with the POCD. And then I added those to this inventory list, this spreadsheet, right? And then I categorized, because we know off the fact that those things are going to be either vacant or a facility on it. So it's got a building on it, okay? Such as whether it's a school, the town hall, yada, yada, yada. Those were not included in our open space calculations, but we wanted to get, and so there's the follow-on uses you could use for that as far as to satisfy the land bank concerns from the town councilors, as well as, so that now you can know that you have this vacant land here. And so I was also able to subsequently go back and do a lot more research over the last week here to go take a look at all those little small 0.03 acre parcels, both for the town as well as the state. Get those all cleaned up, take a look at, because I now have access to the database, the land records database. It starts to get to the maps and that type of stuff. I'm able to do the research back and take a look at those. And I got those as cleaned up as best I could. A lot of things shift back and forth between whether this is, it's got like a road on it and stuff that turns it from a vacant space to really to a facility because Public Works is doing something with it or whatever. It's got stop signs. A lot of sewer type of stuff came out of that because I didn't really look at it before, because we were really honest with you, we put the list together before. Anything less than 3 acres, I really wasn't worrying about. And so it was just kind of stuck on there. So there was actually a couple of things shifted even in the from dedicated open space to facilities. I think I got 5 of these smaller parcels actually flopped around and stuff when I did the follow-on research, taking a look at what the deed says, that type of stuff. Because a lot of the deeds are surprising that this is for drainage and that type of stuff. When the town receives these things, others I found that were in dispute and this type of stuff. And so the guy just said, screw it, I'm not going to spend any more legal hours. You can have it for $1, okay, with the town and stuff. A good example was that it's in our adjacent open space, but technically the town wanted to go have it for sale, but we put it into an open space plan. This is over by Winding Hollow area. So there's a lot of different, every one of these got a little bit of a story when you go do the research on it. So as a result of all this, it's going to cause us to take a look at what goes to the town council's committee, and also take a look at what we have to do for stewardship plans as we go through and revise some of this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all that work, Tom.
So
Town has never had a better understanding of what its land is, and it may never again.
It's not easy. People sit there and go, why can't you tell me? Well, because we've been around for 300 years now, 1600. I mean, and it's just confusing. All right.
Yeah, that's amazing work trying to straighten all that out, Tom. That's pretty impressive.
So, and it's never going to be 100%. That's the discussion I had with staff. No, it's never going to be 100%. We know that. So let's.
We're getting closer. That's the
We're
biggest.
getting close. Yeah. So it's. Yeah. But we're going to be good enough. Like I said, good enough by the end of this year. We're going to have that stake in the ground. Correct?
I think so.
Oh, no, I wasn't looking for,
We're
I
pretty
think
close.
so.
We're getting pretty close. Like I said, we did that list.
I'm gonna write it down for the record in the minutes, end of year.
I got it. I already wrote end of year.
Okay, is the database baseline, or I guess we can call it that. For classification. Okay, now that kind of leads into Tom mentioned the TOP, which is another. So there was concerns from the town council about the transparency and the methodology of how one disposes or uses town property. So after a lot of toing and froing, they chartered a town manager who then chartered a committee, which has 3 town council members on it. And then last meeting, they voted to expand that committee to include Conservation Commission, with myself as the participant, the Housing Authority, and zoning. And the effort going on there, and the meeting is next Thursday. So to get a flow chart or get a process on what to do about it. And as I kept going through it, and I've been using the data that Tom just talked about, that said, you know, we might be spending a lot of time on something that only has a few parcels that would really need a decision on. So Thursday, you know, we're going to hash that out to get a simple process. And Tom dug up something in 2013 that had legal reviews that said, here's the process based upon town statutes. You know, the RTM has to.
State statutes,
State
statutes and the town charter.
Town charter, you know, certain things that have to be done. So I forwarded that to the committee. There, we said, oh, this is interesting. But anyway, so it's not like it's a blank sheet. There's certain things and parameters you have to follow. And it's really just a question of visibility and transparency so that folks are involved. You know, that's kind of my real net on it. So I don't think this is going to be overcomplicated. The concern from staff is that it doesn't overburden the staff with more work, which doesn't lead to productive solutions, I guess would be my term. So I'll leave that there. And I will provide updates, I guess at the January meeting. We meet twice a month. I'm sure the Christmas holidays will screw things up. So I'll give you an update at the next one. These are all Zoom recorded things. So if you really.
The problems in there, I don't find them on the town website as far as part of a standing meeting.
Oh, good question. Dave, could you find out where they are? I mean, I'm sure they're someplace, but they should have been posted in the.
When's the next meeting?
Well, I know they Zoomed the last one. I mean, but they're every.
Well, they're zooming, and I won't argue that.
Yeah, but where are they? I mean, where's the recording? Is what Tom just said.
Well, no, I'm talking about when I go to the town website for meetings, okay?
Let's get it on the schedule.
Yeah, on the schedule.
Oh, no, it's not on the schedule,
That's what I'm talking about.
which is interesting.
Is it because it's a committee?
It's a committee
As opposed, well,
as opposed to a commission.
yeah, commission, it's not a commission, so committees don't have to.
Don't have to, and it's members, there's only 3 town council members, so it's not official there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so technically they're under, but the recording should still be
Yeah.
in the public domain and accessible.
It's definitely getting recorded.
Yes.
This, if I may, just to bring myself up to speed. This is the group that's looking at parcels of land the town owns. Right?
For reuse,
It's for
making
reuse,
recommendations there.
Right.
you know, that the town have the use for it, shouldn't sell it, and it's a recommendation.
So it's the property reuse committee.
Yeah,
It's town-owned property evaluation.
So basically, this is something we've been talking about for a long time, about this something out there in the ether about this group that's supposed to review town-owned properties, make a decision of how to move forward with it. And as you said, there's things that come in, things that go out. And what is that whole process?
Yeah, no,
In the past, I mean, there actually is a approved town council approved process that includes like the assessor's office, the financing, a bunch of stuff. It's a standard, it's I think a 3 or 4 page long, and they're revamping that. That's really their task.
and again, the effort is to be more transparent to the public.
So this committee is actually putting structure to this whole process.
That's the intent. This is-
You've been to all the meetings, I haven't. I attended one.
Lucky you. You only did one. Okay. Now, in line with that, there was a separate note from Tom on the 6 acres to the north of Smith House.
It does, yes.
Yeah, so,
There's a 6 acre parcel. You have Grosso Gardens that surrounds the ambulance thing. I wrote 117 across the street from the library, okay? At the north end of that, there's the Smith House, Smith's house, which is run by the Historical Commission, okay? But just to the north of that, there was a parcel of 6 acres that was deeded to the town housing authority. That's what the currently posted. If you go look it up in the online, it says the town of Groton Housing Authority owns that piece of parcel. But when you go click on it, it says the town of Groton owns it. Well, that's because if you go read through the deed that's posted, says this is in 1992, the deed they deeded it over to for phase 3 of Grosso Gardens for an expansion. Okay. But it says if you haven't started after 2 years, it reverts back to the town. So the town technically owns it right now, but it's obviously made a commitment to have it as Grosso as area for the housing authority. So where that stands, is that vacant or is it facility? You know, because it's committed to being a housing area. So that's come on kind of
it
these are
sounds like it got put back in the bucket again. as a
Well,
result of the 2
yeah.
years.
So this is one that in reviewing all this empty town properties that Bray looks like he has the history on this.
The Java Smith's house property, the farm, included the housing, the ambulance, the Java Smith house, and that 6 acres. The housing authority went ahead and built out their part of it. Java Smith's house was given
150 feet around it, you can't build anything within that.
right to protect it.
Yeah.
As a historic place.
Yeah.
And the 6 acres to the north is in limbo. And there's been some other agencies within the town looked at it, but never did anything. I contacted a number of years ago the Javits Smith board that oversees the house and said, you know, that connected to your property through past deeds and so forth, there's this 6 acre piece of property that's not being identified for any sort of use. And in the meantime, Mr. Kilton got built, and that brought out the whole problem that you're so close to this particular property is so close to the reservoir.
135 feet.
You have to be, whatever you do, there's a lot more to going into the site preparation and worrying about the site than other locations. So I don't know if that put a little stopper on it. But I asked the Javits Smith House group, would you be interested in using this as an extension of your property, of maybe having some sort of a nature walk out there?
I think a pollinator field.
Pollinator field, there was an old cranberry bog in there somewhere. I'm not sure that much exists anymore. And they said yes. but that's all they said. There wasn't any energy coming back to say
So it's in limbo.
it's in limbo to pursue it. So I think with the Javits Smith House, unfortunately, they've gone through a number of folks, the directors and so forth. They're just trying to keep the house together, I guess, without worrying about some sort of expansion. But I thought that would be a wonderful addition to the Javits Smith property if they included that. And so that's out in limbo. That never went anywhere.
So on a classification list, did that get entered as? vacant
Right now,
or-
I put it into, because there's a commitment, obviously by the deed for housing. I left it in the facility category, okay, as opposed to vacant.
But legally, town can do whatever it wants
Well-
with it at this point.
Well, the town, legally, the town should have redone the deed, okay, at the 2-year point. They've done nothing with it. They just let it sit there. That's where I fault the town and who's ever responsible for processing that deed, whether they call the clerk's office or his office, the planning office here. Somebody should go back and clarify who's the owner, because right now, technically, the deed says it's the housing authority, but but the town, because of the caveat there, the town could claim it, but they haven't technically claimed it.
I forwarded that to Dave and Deb with the comment, basically, guys. There's
Yeah,
some.
the GIS person said, oh, it's town, but legally it's not. At least it's for in the research I've done, I could do online. There may have been, maybe.
Excellent candidate for the token.
Yes.
I will raise it on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay. But you might want to get ahead of it. Okay. So interesting things are happening there. So I kind of went over the open space definition already. And as a result of the open space protection motion and the town council stuff, then that had a repercussions on the stewardship manuals that were in the system. So two got impacted. One was Birch Creek included one of the properties, and we had a separate one for Industrial Drive. So I asked Tom, I said, well, given the direction from the town, I didn't think it was prudent for us to have stewardship plans for properties they say.
Not
We
open
might
space.
just do it later.
So in the handout, I guess what I'm looking for is a motion and a vote that would allow me to direct IT to substitute or update the Birch Creek one and to delete the Industrial Drive one from our website.
Yeah, and I've provided the updates in the package here. Basically, it's just deletions. I didn't add any new information. I just deleted everything that's had anything to do with Lytton and made it, it says instead of 3, it says 2 and that type of stuff. So it deleted that one
We
property.
saved it though in case we need it later, right?
No, I always have it. It's on, I've got it posted up, on my.
I'd like not to see it lost.
What?
I'd like to see the plan not get lost.
We have copies of it, but I didn't think appropriate to keep it on the town website.
Do you have,
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, we,
well,
Well, we typically have been approving the plans, and the other one on Industrial Drive, what the story on that was, once in the course of doing this additional research, we found out that there was 2 parcels. There was originally 3 parcels on the Industrial Drive. One was the plant, the water treatment plant. Then the 2 properties on industrial, one 6-acre and then one 22-acre, and then you were in the Mumford Cove. Subsequently, the PWD said, take us out. We want to control all our 26 acres here. So, okay, so I took that out of the plan. And then now the town council took the other parcel out. And so what's left over is the 6 acres. So I went and did research on that 6 acres and I found, oh, on the map for the water treatment plant, that parcel was included in the directions for the water treatment plant. And so now, so technically there's nothing. So that's water treatment, PWD, they own that one. Town says this is, so there's nothing there for us to, there's no open space, dedicated open space on that area along the trolley-way. The town wants to.
So our percentage of open space went down.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to get more open space.
So,
wait.
this most southern 22 acre,
Yes, most of the 22 acres and 6 acres and 28
well,
acres.
the skinny one is
Yeah.
on top. The one that was below it.
That was when we went to the town council to
We
get.
went to the town council and they are putting this particular piece of property in a swapping pile.
Yes. For all intents and purposes, into the land bank.
This is their land bank.
Yes, it's a good example of a land bank.
Which isn't, but that's okay.
Well, when it-
That's what they.
I had to, when they asked me, what's the topography of the property, I said, it's very flat, relatively flat. It does flood, but there are some areas that, in theory, you could develop, you can put something there, okay? You know, oh gosh, it's developable, let's go sell it, something, okay?
And how are they going to get access to it? Train?
By train.
Helicopter.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything is possible, okay?
Apparently at the council it is.
Yes.
So through state property or across the railroad property, it's the
Yeah.
only way to get access.
Or you come just extend Gary Court down. In theory,
In theory, right?
yes, because the town owns the interim thing. You know, they could go around the sewage treatment plant and get there.
Okay, so I am, with all
So
that,
so the second part is to cancel that stewardship plan totally.
So we motion to do those two things, right?
And the documents are here in the package.
So the motion,
So can we do them both in one motion?
Yes.
Well, actually, I'd like, I have a last question
Last question.
on the other property. That has 3 parcels to it, right?
The Birch Plain,
Birch Plain.
yes. There's the Sassacus area and then the 2 Joel properties.
Right. To the left of the 2 Joel properties is 8 acres.
That was a Lytton, and that's what, again, the town said. Town council made a decision to put those into the land bank,
All of them.
all 8 acres. Just the one, the Lytton, 0 Lytton, that.
Well, that one, that's just below the school.
Well, it's below, there's a multi-family unit there.
Right.
on
And
Lytton
this is,
Drive.
runs right behind it.
The school butts it to the south.
Yes. Right. So that 8 acres is going to the
Vacant land bank.
vacant land bank. And the rest is going to open space?
No, so the rest, we didn't ask anything there. Those were already protected. The town council in the past has already taken action to protect both the Joels, and then the state has the conservation easement on the Sassacus.
Right, okay.
So
the
that is one package of a stewardship plan. We had, because it was adjacent to it, as we did with all the other stewardship plans, we put multiple parcels together to make one. So we had been developing over the last 2 years. This is obviously dedicated open space because of the uses of how we've been tracking it. So we're gonna I'll get ahead, we put it into the inventory as open space, but there was never any protection on it.
Wasn't official.
It wasn't
The,
official protection on
that
it.
8 acres was given to the town for $1.
Well, here's the deal on it, okay? You go back and take a look at the plan. The plan was developed in 1952, okay? And it said, do not develop, okay? So it was prior to when we had open space concept in our, any statutes or whatever, okay? It's whatever. So, but the developer recognized this was undevelopable land, okay? Do not develop. He actually put that on the plan. It says, do not develop, okay? Then it goes through a number of years, okay? And then you get to, I think, 2011. 3 guys living down in New Orleans or whatever says, why am I paying taxes on this 8 acres? I'll just give it to the town.
Right.
And the town accepted that, okay? But it didn't get accepted as open space, they just accepted it, okay? And so when you go back and take a look at the legislative things, there's very minimal stuff about it, so it wasn't sold as open space.
Well, the only thing
As if we were trying to get that codified by this action that we were proposing. this
the
referral.
only thing I'll leave with that is that at the time the town was looking to acquire it, planning staff came to the Conservation Commission and said, do you have any interest in this particular property? And it was open space that hadn't been developed and so forth, and we said yes. Not knowing how it was going to, at what point the town was actually going to acquire it.
Yeah.
But they were looking for somebody to perhaps commission to support taking over this land. End of story. So it was at a time when they got it, assumptions were made that perhaps it was somewhat protected, but because it was attached to or right next to what was West Side at the time, middle school, we said, well, possibly it could be trail systems or something to do with the education component of the adjoining property. So that sort of cemented a little bit more our support for the property. That's where it ended.
Yeah, and in theory, I mean, I have walked that parcel, it's some very sloped, okay? And there's some ledge areas on the northern part of it. So I think, and that's the whole reason we instituted this whole thing was to go get it a final decision, because it kind of fell through the cracks, is
Right.
how I would portray it, as far as
And
over
still
the.
gone through the
Yep,
cracks,
it's
basically.
still down there.
Well, no, it's
No,
not.
no, it's been highlighted and saying, guys, that it ain't protected open space, that that's just preserved open space. And
Well, it's not preserved because it's not a park or anything. It's vacant. It's just vacant land.
It's not counted as open space
Doesn't
anymore.
count as open space.
But if the statutes had been in place, this developer would have given this to the town as the
Right,
Lytton Drive open space. It's clearly met those kind of criteria and conditions, but the law wasn't in place at that time because this happened so many years ago. And and the guy that's trying to get rid of it is not going to go spend money to go get a survey update to say, I'm giving you this because you changed your rules now and whatever. He just says, I just want to get out of having to pay taxes on this thing. Okay. I have no vested interest. I can't do anything with this. And
Okay, so back to the original question on the table.
I move
And I'll second that.
that we accept the updated draft Birch Plain Creek management plan. And that we eliminate the industrial dimension plan from the website.
Second,
I seconded it.
seconded, did it?
Yes, I did.
Any additional conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah,
Yep.
instead of, Ann, you're opposing?
No, that was with the yeses.
Okay, so it was a delayed handwriting, okay.
Oh, sorry,
So, Ann,
delay in the screen.
any opposed? All right, accepted unanimously. Now, to the point that, I mean, there is a case to be made, which I kind of didn't want to make it now, to go back and legally say, wait a minute, guys, this is just like the developer's contribution to open space. It says it on the thing, and they said, well, it's just a note on the diagram, it didn't mean anything, and it's like, that was not the time to fight.
Right.
Right, so, but there is a case to be made that if they try and do something, wait a minute, guys, the intent was there, we're now gonna go to battle because you're now gonna try and do something that you shouldn't be doing. So, but for now, it's kind of vacant.
It's not worth the battle.
It's not worth the battle.
Right.
Technically, it is open space, but it doesn't count as
Well, no,
open
it doesn't
space.
count as open
So it's
space.
so that's
Yes.
a notch, it's okay. Because now we need other open space to raise our percentages, right?
Yeah, well, the percentage is actually not bad, even.
we're down to
Yeah,
you need to be at thousands today.
yeah, so you gotta be careful because as a result of doing all the work Tom did, it actually doesn't look too bad. So, you get some and you lose some, so we gained more than we lost.
Yeah.
In the analysis. Right, okay, that was so much fun. Okay, got through that. The other question that I had under this category was the Wolfbrook one. We had a temporary stewardship plan.
We have a draft that's
Draft.
out there that's went to GOSA
Went to GSA, went
Yeah.
to town staff, et cetera, et cetera. Now, my understanding, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, we expect everything is gonna be closed and ownership and all the papers will be signed by the end of this year. For Wolfbrook.
I've written that in the minutes before. Like, but-
I'm just.
It's still the expectation,
Still
right?
Yes, that is what we have heard. Is
Okay.
that they're in the final processes of wrapping everything up.
So given that that's a high probability assumption in the
Yes.
short term, then the question becomes, who's the leadership for the stewardship plan for that property? Because that property has a lot of unique aspects to it, and it does need some help, yes.
The other thing is, as far as, I know that Parks and Rec has already expressed some interest in this, because it came up at the Trail
I'm
Sports
asking
Task
the-
Force. Yeah,
So,
but I think, what's the process here that this planning staff, I think, should be saying is, which organizations are going to be tasked with stewardship of it?
Yeah, Tim Sutherland made a good point that it probably needs a committee.
Well, I mean, it could, I think part of this was, form like there's been other groups formed, to do that. But we're looking for the town staff to make a proposal that says, is it a special group? Could be overseen by Parks and Rec, but it's made up of representatives from GOSA, conservation or whatever. Versus, it's just gonna be Parks and Recs and, business as usual. We're asking the question. Right?
I'll find out and report back.
Next year.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. All I can say is that GOSA has not provided their funding yet.
yes, that is what you said that
Yeah,
too.
They'll get around to it.
No, they haven't been asked. They've been contacted, but they're waiting for, says, this is how when I need the check.
Now, the finance committee is not meeting in December, so it's gonna need a special meeting.
No, it's already been authorized.
Well, it's been, so we just need the
We need the treasurer to write the check.
treasurer to write the check.
And I talked to him last night and he hasn't,
Yes,
he has had contact with the planning staff as well as with the lawyers, but he hasn't written the check yet. It's contrary to, I just point that out because you guys, you're expecting the check from the state.
It's
Yes,
a
yeah, yeah.
timing
Last Friday,
issue.
it
Right?
doesn't sign, it
Who
doesn't
is
sound
what-
like.
I'm not gonna give you my money till they give you their money.
Right.
Right, I'm assuming would be the case. So I guess I'll leave that in staff's capable hands to extract the check from both GSA and,
Me, but yes.
well, no, I
Yeah,
said
no,
staff,
I know staff. You did.
from GSA and GOSA, both GCA. GSA, government, yeah.
Yeah.
There were customer, I can't get it. out of my head. But yeah, but that I think you need to drive and ask for the check. Or checks. in this case.
Sarah, yeah.
We're just trying to help you out anyway.
Yeah, we're trying to help you out.
Best information we can get.
Told it's been taken care of. I'm like, okay.
Okay, so next item was the Birch Creek pilot. I kind of said that there was no joy, I failed in multiple.
And
Attempts.
I did reach out to the GOSA and have not heard anything back. So I have a meeting on Wednesday morning with the Birch Plain folks, and so I'll be giving them an update that we've changed our stewardship plan, that we're reaching out to Con College folks, and hopefully we'll be able to do something in the coming months, but we're struggling to get a leadership role.
Yeah, it's a responsibility that people are hesitant to sign up to.
Yeah.
So,
So this are great plans here, maybe.
yeah, great
small
plans,
amounts.
but our execution is the last step.
Can I add one thing? Because this
Yeah.
was discussed last month about the pilot for Birch Plain Creek, but also for Wolfbrook. And whether or not when Wolfbrook finally goes through, are the two going to compete against each other about which one's the priority?
Well, none of these are looking at price. From my viewpoint, from writing all these plans and stuff, we are looking for local, we're looking for somebody like from the city of Groton to take that. In Wolfbrook, because of the historical actions that have been done in the past, if you go back to the 2004 timeframe, there were a bunch of people that got very committed to that. And I think that's where Sue was one of those individuals. Whitney, the GOSA people, they were advocates against the developer, okay, going against there. So that there's a core group of older people. So I don't see competition. GOSA is already involved to some degree over in Birch Plain because you have the whole Birch Plain Creek with ECCD behind them. So these are two parallel operations.
That's what I was.
Sure.
Okay, just for your education.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's helpful.
Well, that's- We're looking for volunteers to do things,
So it
so.
would be volunteer A, volunteer B.
Right, so yes, it may be looking at from the same volunteer pool, finding people. to
That is
work on
correct, but the Wolf.
But it's not really a competition.
Wolf has more book behind it because there's commitments made to the state.
Right.
So
But I'm just answering
No, no,
Dave's.
that-
you
that-
know,
That's helpful. I mean, I think that was part of the conversation last time too, is that,
Right.
and if the struggle is finding someone to step up for Birch Plain Creek, and then all of a sudden we're gonna have all this excitement around Wolf.
Right.
And with the same pool, it gets kind of
Well,
dicey.
I think I feel like it's two different things, the leadership group and the worker group, right? The leadership group, it shouldn't be competition. The worker group theoretically is a lot more available. You just have to figure out how to get them. In fact, one of the things for the students is to come up with ideas for how to recruit volunteers to work on the properties, right? So, and once you have something in place that it's obvious how you do it, I think finding volunteers, I mean, the people are out there that want to help. You just have to have the right
But they
path.
just don't want to be responsible.
Right, it's a different level of volunteer.
The other is Birch Plain Creek is, and with the city has carried the interest in that for many years. They sort of took over 2010, maybe.
Yeah, there was a actual ECCD did a whole project. They were funded a special investigative grant and then and the mayor personally attends these meetings and stuff.
Okay.
So it's,
Right. So it already has
right. And he actually has a staff, Sierra is the person in charge there. I think you've met her.
I haven't met her yet, but
Yeah, but she's the point of contact from the city's perspective. You got the airport authority involved. There's a lot of players in this thing. And we got involved because of the stewardship of the two parcels that are included in that area.
because the concern is Quantic River as well as Baker's Cove. Baker's Cove going back up separates the city and town, and the city has sort of taken closer interest in that. Quantic River largely has been driven by the oyster grounds, the Shellfish Commission, the Groton Shellfish Commission.
And Dick Honan from the South Coast is actually on the Baker's Cove also. So he attends all the meetings.
Okay,
So Baker's Cove is, in a sense, it's in good hands.
It's just that they're looking for more activity as far as in the cleanup area right now. That is kind of originally GOSA was doing it, and they've kind of been, their volunteer base got stretched, taking care of their properties as they've grown in the same time frame. And so we've kind of stepped up a little bit because of our stewardship thing. We kind of volunteered that information to them. As that's come, we're kind of on the hook a little bit to find, at least have two of the parcels or three parcels there to kind of take a look at. Obviously, there's other areas that are involved all the way down Baker's Cove. So, the Elks Club and my personal thing is that when I this summer, I kayaked that whole area all the way up into the Joe property and stuff. And biggest area that could use the cleanup is the school. Okay, right on their side of the river there, of the creek, is probably the dirtiest area from just kayaking alongside of it.
What used to be the West Side School, it's now the whatever.
Thames River Magnet School.
Magnet School.
Yeah, but there's tires and all kind of garbage right along that shoreline from the school.
So that'd be a
Yes.
good project for
Yeah.
volunteers to go.
But that's what I'm saying, that's all, I look at this
Yeah.
as part of
Yeah.
is coordinating a cleanup effort with the school to
Yep.
do that. Okay, so that's what I hope I can get two of the people onto the big screw, thing. To
Yeah.
supplement what we're doing. If they don't have a volunteer coordinator for the entire thing, we can at least get a cleanup.
Students often like to do cleanup projects. In
Yeah.
fact, in the past, when they worked mostly with Avalonia for these projects, they would have the Avalonia project, but then in addition to that, everybody would do a cleanup day. So they'd have a cleanup day on one of the Avalonia properties for everybody, in addition to whatever other projects they had. So we could conceivably have that as well.
So get the focus one afternoon.
Right.
Yeah.
One of
So
them.
there is a project there as part of that package.
Right.
Now, the next thing is something we've already talked about, and you showed up. So last time we did remember this list, which was for the earthquake thing. So these were here's the volunteer list for it. Trying to remember, I
Is
don't,
that in our?
it was in one of them.
Last month.
Well, last,
And I kind of worked based upon the discussion the last time, I kind of edited and I didn't put it in the,
It wasn't in a table format.
yeah, it wasn't in the, so I kind of would put it in table for to make it a little easier. So what I can do is I can kind of publish this out. But there shouldn't be any new news here, right? This is.
No, I agree, and I, obviously, sorry, my mind, the maps and stuff you guys have been working at that, when they get finalized, I can't do anything until then.
Yeah.
Now, look, I have one piece of follow-up because you all asked me about, this is under the outreach piece and whatnot, so this kind of crosses over a little bit. About, and this probably comes into the college thing and so, you asked about budget. What's the budget? What can we do? Because there's a lot of ideas for all of these projects here. So as you all are coming up with descriptors for these projects and things you would like to do underneath that, if you have certain things, like for instance, like an outreach event, all right, we need a 4-foot table and a couple chairs. Put that as part of it, just get ballpark figures. So we have an idea of what it can cost, and then we can hopefully, I'm gonna help to slide some of that stuff in there. We can actually purchase some of these things. Some of the stuff is not gonna cost us any money, but there are some
Right,
things.
and that could be part of what the students do, is help to develop the budget for
Yes,
that project.
Yep. So, all right,
Okay. Very good. Let me stop that and go back to this. So I had that. We actually talked about the 2026 POCD,
one comment about that.
about which,
2026 PLC.
oh, okay.
We saw him as partly community outreach or whatever, but I met with GCA. And they are extremely concerned about because we're talking about rewriting the thing and certain members think that should be scrapped and started from scratch because it's such a mishmash, you should maybe, but anyway, the main concern is that climate change has to be incorporated in the PLCD.
We already planned on doing that, though.
Well, I know, that's why I told them, but I'm just bringing it publicly to the forefront that climate change is an essential.
And we would marshal, whether it's sustainability group or whether it's Megan and her. I mean, it's not like we're gonna go out and write it independently, but we've got a lot of material from our conservation plan, plus the sustainability, plus everything else. There's a hell of a lot more source material than there was in 2016.
Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna do is, push all this stuff together and be more specific, because we developed actions from the policy statements. And for one, I'd like to see those actions get a little bit more into the POCD rather than waving their arms about, here's a great thing to do. It needs to be, so because it took us another 2 years to get down to.
Everything that was in the POCD, we did address, and it's being tracked, so.
Yeah, and I'll get to that because that's coming up on the famous section 7.
and just to answer your question, I think that a big piece of the POCD coming up is gonna be about climate. I mean, because it's just the fact that the town has really committed, not just from the task force and the fact, past, but now we have dedicated staff for that. It's really, it's a really a big thing. So, but I also think, from a perspective of the commission, like, I think the more voice you can have around that is only gonna help. And from GCA, I mean, from everyone, I think if you just keep hammering.
It really is a community effort, and
Absolutely.
what we're trying to do is be the drivers to get that, and not have these consultants come in that get paid to put their stuff on the piece of paper. You really want to do it and have the community drive it. Maybe the consultant can clean up and make it look pretty, right? But it needs to, I think it needs to come from us. So that is a change. That's what we've been talking. We've been talking about that for a couple of months. And so if we keep talking about it,
I agree.
by the time we get closer, it'll be,
That's why I'm saying that, yeah.
Does the town
So-
council have to approve the PLCD?
yeah.
So
that's
then I
it.
think there just has to be like a plan to sort of educate the town council on climate change, because I don't think they totally get it. I don't think they get.
The
how
town
critical-
council doesn't write the POC.
Yeah, but they have
Right.
to approve it or not approve it.
Well, what,
The Planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning commission are the ones that are really handling that whole thing.
the planning staff and planning and zoning are putting the whole thing together. And when you talk about consultants, having been around too long, going back in some of the past POCDs, there was 1 year, they hired an outside consultant that came in and really put an environmental marker in that POCD that's carried since. The last consultants for the 2016 that they hired was a disaster because the planning staff had to end up writing it. Deb was just immersed in this thing forever. So the data that she was working on is actually, it's not 2016, but it goes back to 2010 or whatever. The 10-year time frame. And it got pushed out to 2016 because maps had to be redone. The text had to be redone. So they're good and bad on consultants. And when we say, a community bubbling up, if we have a good consultant who's got a positive side to him about the environment, this would be very encouraging. And it would be a good meshing between our organization, let's say, and the consultant.
Well, it's gonna be a 2023 objective. Because that's when it's gonna be authorized for the 2020 PLCD, my understanding. And that's kind of when it gets started. So it's
Do they,
coming up.
is there any sense, or you haven't maybe been here long enough to know whether or not town thinks they can do this one on their own versus a
I
consultant?
don't think so. I think it's a consultant. Everything I've heard, they're gonna be hiring a consultant, so.
What we want to do is shape
Right.
the nature of the agreement and how much they do. What we don't want to do, like I said, we don't want them to tell us. We want to tell them and then, which is kind of the way you use consultants anyway. They don't rarely come up with things out of their full cloth. Okay, so along that line is that now. This is Tom's data, but it's a little old because it wasn't with the new updated data that you had. So Tom gave me a summary that the protected acres was 2,522. The preserved was 3,078. Conservation easements was 205, which by definition from the state was a 5,805 open space acreage under that definition, which actually comes out to be 28%, a little bit above. So when I said, by the time going through all this stuff, it actually came out better than what was in our head in the 20 to 22% range. Came out a little more, but with the last go round, I think this changed a little bit,
Not much.
but not much. So we're sitting in here 25 to 28%. Right, so the whole question is, we've been talking about the 30% objective, not the 20% objective.
Right.
So, but it's an objective, it's not, you don't get extra monies or funding or anything else for achieving the 30%,
Unless you're going after federal funding.
which is kind of always been in the back of the mind of, can we go after that if we do this the right way?
I just don't know. I don't think you have anything here that would qualify for.
So, yeah.
You're talking about,
Opportunity,
you're talking about acquisition.
right, acquisition wise for properties
There's not a
to,
lot left.
the feds would be interested,
The
in,
feds
other
would
than
be-
potentially this Eastern Cottontail thing, and that's the only one that I can come think of.
But,
That's talked about in.
but we need to, update these stats so that we have a definitive answer next time we go back to town council.
Yeah.
That's kind of where.
That's when they finish their.
Right, when they finish that, right, then we can- So that was that. So we actually wound up a little better than we thought. Next is,
Looking at Larry for that, I don't.
He's not sharing his screen. It's
He's not sharing.
all
Oh,
secret.
yeah, it's like,
Oh,
what the heck? It's like, what are you
The,
talking about?
I'm like peeking
Transparency,
over a
the
little
shade
bit.
came down on the
Oh.
transparency.
this was an email from Tom that I,
No, this is he's reading, all I did was I took the spreadsheet that I said, here's all the inventory from the inventory plus all the additional town
No, no,
properties.
I
And
get
then,
that.
and then I put whether it's protected, preserved,
I mean,
vacant
yeah,
or
Larry's just
whatever.
acting like he's showing us stuff that we're reading and he's explaining what's in what we're reading. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I was verbalizing.
okay, yeah, this is an email, so I just took those numbers and just so you have the information here.
Yeah, but it's not,
That makes sense.
it's not formalized yet.
Right,
So this
that's
was
why I'm hesitant is that
Yeah, that's,
that the numbers are still in review, and I've actually changed the numbers, tweaked them a little bit.
Yeah.
Even last night, as of this morning, this is kind of been a little bit in flux.
so that's why I'm going, that's how I was just kind of more like a status. But kind of this is where we're at.
What's the 37, excuse me, the 37 acres pending from DEP on Mystic Oral School?
Yeah.
What does this
Oh.
mean?
But it means Mystic Oral School, they've got their big parcel there, okay?
Right,
You took a look at what, before they canceled everything, we were supposed to be receiving under a conservation easement, 37 acres that we would count. Because right now, that whole thing, the whole parcel is facilities, it's state facility.
Right.
But 37 acres, we actually have the map that showed it. It says this was going to be conservation easement by the state to the town.
But it ain't
So,
yet.
but we haven't got it, so. And they canceled what they were doing, so.
right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the 37 acres being turned over to the town can't proceed.
Nobody's doing anything at this point.
Well, I meant,
That's what it says. pending.
Theoretically, yes.
right,
Doesn't mean
But it's back in limbo again, so therefore it's
Yeah.
not counted.
right, but that's the other part of
There's a bunch of stuff that's pending. This doesn't include that doesn't include the 37 acres from the state, but it does include the 20 acres up on, up a Gungy Walk that the town of council approved as open space receiving.
Yeah.
And also the 161 acres of Wolfbrook is included in these numbers. Because those two are definitely pending and there's action. The town council's already approved it, yada, yada, yada. Okay,
They said it's gonna happen by the end of the year.
yeah, so it's a matter of legal.
Which is 26 days
deeds
away.
coming up. Those are in process. As I would say pending, it's in process. The one up there was, a promise was made, but then it was pulled. So that's how I didn't count that one. So that full parcel is a state facility.
right, so the oral school is not included.
Right. Laurel School is not included in that
Yep,
number. Is not.
yep.
That's not pending enough. That was, I think at one time I was counting it and that kind of got yanked.
Thus the ever-changing
That's kind of some,
total
the
count.
number moves. Various reasons.
Yeah, so these were, so none of this is old stuff. But that's where that is, so. Then we get to. The famous. Section 7. So last month. You recall, this was like all yellow. So I kind of did the update. I retired the ones that were green. And we're kind of left here, and you'll notice. Most of these were linking to the P O C D, if you notice the due dates. This one is in April, which is the Parks and Rec's master plan, which later on under the chair report, I participated in the Parks and Rec master plan survey, I guess, no, focus groups. Focus groups. And they ran a bunch of focus groups. And I haven't seen a formal readout or report out from that consultant.
I thought that was supposed to be the next week.
Yeah, it's not here yet. I didn't see it yet, but that's ongoing. That's why I kind of put this out, because the April date was their target for when their report would be done according to the consultant. So that's why I got that in April. And then we would then participate as part of the public comment feedback. And then this kind of got swirled in that with the bikes and pedestrian trail master plan is along the same timeline.
For an update on that, they are in the process of making this selection of the consultant. And they hope to have the focus groups running in the spring. That was reported at the Trails Coordination Task Force.
We know if Kent is gonna put in a bid,
I don't know who's bidding.
they did the last one. Kent Frost.
I know he has a lot of work over there. I know Mr. Frost personally, and he has a lot of work already, so I don't know if he's interested in.
Pro bono.
Well, this isn't pro bono, he gets paid for this. But I don't know if he's in, because, it's a balance. You bid on stuff that you have to be able to do it too. He's not that big operation.
Not big operation, yeah. So, let's see, so I'm going, then SCARA, we kind of push that out till next year, the end of next year almost, based upon SCARA. I won't say dragging their feet, it's just a long, involved process to get that moving. And, June 25, so that's out a few years. And so that's PLCD related. So we've gotten to the point where I can't remember the amount of actions we had originally, but there are a lot of pages of it. So we're now kind of down to, it's either the PLCD project, if you will, we kind of label that together, or execution on the actions as a result of the stewardship plans. I mean, those are kind of the two big lumps we have. And there's some other things, population support, yada, yada, yada. So, I thanks to the commission, I made a lot of progress in knocking these things off, which it's a good timing because it leads to the next PLCD, right? Once you kind of get through this, and the next PLCD is going to get focused.
Another list of things.
Well, no, a lot more focused on sustainability and other things, that we had a lot of focus on open space. And I see that shifting where the issues are going to be carbon, carbon sequestration and management, sustainability, and those kind of things, not necessarily open space and the stewardship and that kind of stuff. So I see a shifting of focus 23 and beyond.
I think we're also in a good place though to be doing our education and outreach and involving citizens in the processes. I mean, I think we've got to the point where we're kind of able to start, and actually the students is a good pilot for how to include, volunteers in our, work, the everyday work that we do.
Get the work done. I mean, we
Yeah.
set the plans.
So I think we're in a good space to really, because we have sort of plans for education outreach. We really haven't done nearly as much. We barely started scratching the surface of the outreach to the public. And so I think since we, because we can only do so much at a time, but we're in a space where we can do more of that now.
So I think it's probably time to retire section 7. I look at somebody objects to that. Because it really is moving out for those other major ones. What I'd like to do is, as a homework assignment, since you have the holidays, you'd love to have somebody, is what are the Conservation Commission's objectives for 2022? I mean, we kind of started that a year ago. We set some objectives in place. And I think it's, I mean, I kind of have in the back of my head what they should be, but I want this to be your, you guys drive it. Right? Might be
We all drive it together.
three new pollination gardens or something. I don't know. So, if we could do that for the January meeting, then, we'll put something on the agenda day to kind of have that discussion. And now, I probably should dig up the 2022 objectives to send that out, just to remind
Yeah, that'd
everybody
be fun to just see check,
about
check,
what,
check,
about
check,
what we
check.
did. Let me
Ongoing.
dig out the 2022 objectives. No, I thought we did a pretty good job. My head says we did a good job on it, but formally I have not done that. Okay. So that is, let me stop sharing there, go back to the agenda and report of chair.
Do we have a report commission yet?
Yes, no, that comes after the report of chair.
Oh,
I get to go first.
you go first. I thought you had the last word because you're,
Nah,
The staff has.
Dave has the last word. Staff has the last word.
And I already told you my exciting thing about our budget, come up with ideas, let us know.
So, one of the things at the last meeting is you authorized me to provide a support letter to Megan in terms of the fund, that resiliency fund letter. I think you put it in the agenda. So I trust that you guys, that
do we have any knowledge of the status of that grant? Was it approved or do we?
Not yet,
know
it's
yet?
all,
It's
they're
all-
being reviewed
it's
right
all in
now,
the
so,
mixer?
so there's two, I think you remember what Megan had talked about, there's two actual funds coming from deep. The first one was a planning one, and the second one was a little bit more like actually some implementation and whatnot, so, the first one, the letter of support that commission wrote was for the first one, so that's being in review right now, and I think if I remember correctly, what she said, they're supposed to find out, I think, early next year, at least of the first step, or early-ish next year, so.
are there any meetings with public input to talk about this, or is this all internal to deep?
From the deep side of things?
Yeah.
No, not really, I mean, we kind of wait, it's like the waiting game
Okay,
now,
so
and, you
this-
know, like, so.
So we gave her input and now we're.
Gave her,
Okay.
yeah, we did all that. She wrote a great grant and I actually reviewed it and stuff like that and hope for the best, I went to a Connecticut floodplain managers meeting and they talked a lot about the grants and that they got some really good projects coming forward and they're hoping to extend, keep this funding going and
Yeah.
so which is great, so that's really exciting.
So there's
Wait.
money that's sitting in the budget for next year that you're hoping to get out of, or is this money that's already been budgeted?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the budget, our internal budget quite yet, but
That's as much, I was thinking of the state.
well, they hadn't really said, but there's, based upon how things go, I think they're hoping this is an ongoing, this kind of project is ongoing for these projects, because the state really needs these projects,
I guess the question really is this contingent on getting state, a lot of these state grants is tied to bonding.
Right.
And like the Oswald grants are all tied to the bonding amount. So the bonding commission has to go approve this bulk of stuff for the state. And is this tied into that, or is this a part of the general fund?
I don't know enough. Okay, truthfully, I can try to find out. That's how when I was in Rhode Island, that's what we did, always had green bonds that it went directly into this kind of stuff. Green infrastructure, resilience, everything like that, but it was a bond thing that came out every year.
Okay. The other thing is, which I already talked about, is the property reviews committee I attended on 11/2. I gave you that feedback already. There was a resilience public workshop that was held. I forget when. Yeah.
I was unfortunately out of town. I was really hoping.
There's
to
more.
go.
It was actually pretty good attendance. In the agenda handout is Megan's summary of the key feedback.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure I want to, I mean, you can kind of look at it, but it's more of a work in process. So I just thought it would be worthwhile for you guys to be able to look at that. The structure was, most workshops, a general Q&A, and then we got into small groups. and we each had discussions and then fed back stuff to, I guess, Megan, who then recorded all
Or all those notes.
of it.
She's
Oh,
the-
oh, you weren't here, oh, yeah.
She's a,
Peggy Renato is the newest, the new resilience and sustainability manager for the planning department.
oh, the new position?
Yes,
Oh, so this is the person who was hired for it.
yes.
And she came and talked to us last month.
Mr. Love.
Oh, watch the recording, you'll,
Oh.
she's right at the beginning, so you don't have to even wait too long to get to see her. Very impressive.
There's I think I made the comment, it says, used to couldn't find a kind of meeting to go to, and now they're all over the place. So there was this sustainability conference, December 1st. That was a webinar that I attended. Oh, yeah, you were there. I'll give you my view and you can give your view. I must admit, it was a 4-hour event. I didn't last the 4 hours.
I did.
You're a better man than I. It was a lot of funding, how do you do funding? How you do, I mean, I was expecting a little more data analysis actions, but it wasn't. So I must admit, I kind of,
Well, it was, just from my viewpoint, it was run by the Long Island Sound folks, and so they are big grant providers, okay, and because they work there.
LISS, that group?
Yeah, Long Island Sound.
yeah.
Yeah, but they are aggregators of funds that come in and they're basically, they have a master plan, okay, between New York and Connecticut that they use that as the framework for awarding grant money, okay? And then they have focus areas. That's what they kind of were explaining how this whole thing works relative to what groups are. They had some people that talked about in regard to where the different dollars from these different foundations that provide money to them, and how the master plan works, and how that they're trying to and how to write a grant that's and provide a project that will get funded, because I kind of got the impression that there's a lot of submittals that are going in the trash heap because they don't meet the criterias, and they're trying to get that across to the people if you're here. But and there's some, they gave us some examples. One is I guess Avalonia did one over in downtown Stonington. There's other ones throughout down in the Bronx area, all around anything that touches Long Island Sound. So they had some examples from around the area. As far as for something that we could be doing, I mean, it's the only one that kind of came to me was potentially, as something the state should be maybe thinking about. How do they better protect the airport and stuff, and the whole Bluff Point area is one kind of area that because they were focusing in on these living shorelines and this type of stuff in regard to how do you what kind of project, because that's where they've been funneling a lot of their current dollars into this living shoreline projects that's run by the state of Connecticut and stuff, and using that framework as far as how to, rather than having individual people putting up seawalls to save their property, how do you take a look at it from a group area? And this is the kind of stuff that they really want to be funding. So,
And what's to say on top, to follow up with that too, literally, I don't know, the end of last week, the White House just had some brand new stuff coming out about putting a lot of money towards nature-based solutions. Yeah. So there's a big move towards this, and there's gonna be a lot of funding for these projects.
It's gonna be a wash of money. The question is figure out what to do correctly. So Megan being here, and I know she's gotta get focused on funding, which is the other, I know she was on the meeting.
yeah.
So I kind of, she'll handle that stuff. So things like, seagrass, restorations, other things, I think are neat things, because I think there's a multiplier factor. They're much better than trees in terms of carbon sequestration. I mean, so there's a number of, good fundamental things that could be done that helps the environment. And now we're getting into things where you got to know what the hell you're talking about, right? Which, I mean, I'm getting beyond what I can contribute here, but,
We're gonna learn.
but we're gonna learn. But the thing is, A, there's lots of money. B, you gotta know how to go after it. That's why we supported getting Megan in there to do it. And we're expecting leadership from the town staff on where to do it. This again gets back to our 2023 objectives. You know, where are we gonna put our investments of time? So it'll be an interesting discussion. But like I said, I mean, the good news is there's just lots of stuff going on. The bad news is there's lots of stuff going on. And we got to sort through all that and figure out what we can.
Lots to choose from, though.
Yeah, I mean,
It's great.
it's great. I mean, I got,
Just pick the stuff you want to do. We don't have to do everything.
right, yeah, you don't have to, you can only do the stuff that we can do and we're interested in and help the town. So that's good stuff. I think, let's see, go back to, I did the Parks and Rec folks meeting, and that kind of is the stuff I was involved with. I will now, the next item is the report of commission. I know where to start.
Me, why me?
Why?
Because you asked.
Because A, you ask, and B, I know there's stuff going on with
Right, okay.
the newspaper article.
Yeah, we had that nice newspaper article. I don't know if everybody saw that, but I put it out on the pollinator pathway feed. So there, it's the link. It was a nice article in the day. Kimberly Drilling interviewed Maura, and it happened to be a rain garden that members of the pollinator pathway group helped plant it. And so it was some nice press, and that was good. And then I spoke with Megan. I just spoke with her today. We have a title for the talk, which I thought maybe you should take down because we'll want to, actually, we have to publicize it this month because it's happening January 11th. So I put a little request out to some people to make a nice, like a nice little digital brochure that we could be both digital and then get printed and post up around places, you know, an attractive little talk.
So what's gonna happen on January 11th?
The talk, Megan Granado's giving a talk
Okay.
at the library at 7 o'clock. And the title is The Buzz About Invasives, invasive plants and their impact on pollinators.
That's interesting.
What time?
7 o'clock,
And what's the date again?
January 11th, Wednesday, January 11th.
No,
And it
I-
is sponsored by the Pollinator Pathway Group. And I took the liberty of saying also by the Conservation Commission. Is that fair?
Yes, that's certainly fair.
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
We want you.
Send the bill to Barry.
But no, and she's on the clock and all that, but she's excited about it. This is really one of her core
Yeah,
areas of
yeah,
interest is
that's-
invasives. And I
yeah.
feel it's an area that some of us are kind of have a lot of knowledge about and some don't really understand the relevance. So she's going to start very basic and kind of build up a little bit.
My assumption, Dave, is that on the town website news events, that this meeting would be highlighted as an event. Is that correct?
We'll find out.
I'm assuming Megan would do that, but I'm just,
Any support and she also is gonna, I suggest that we have whoever the TV people, the cable, you know, how they record things. She said she knows somebody she'll ask, so I have it recorded, so it can be a little link.
put out there on the.
Yeah, we put it on our conservation thing and, you know, just to,
Well, town staff could,
Remotely.
I'm not gonna get involved in that because that didn't go well last time I got involved.
no, I mean, just recording it and putting it out there as a YouTube video is fine.
I'm thinking of the students, if they want to, yeah, especially the ones that might be interested in the base or whatever, and, you know, they have issues with transportation, so.
Yeah, I mean, it would be available probably as a link after. I just know about having it live, then someone's got to manage that. And it's more like a evening, you know,
Right.
and there could be, you know, by the time we put it out, and we're gonna have to promote it on, you know, all the social media, through all the different groups.
They get the YouTube out a couple of days, and it doesn't take
Yeah.
a lot.
They're probably not gonna
They
sit
don't
on a
do editing.
Wednesday night and want to watch it
Yeah,
live.
I think the problem is if they're going to the library, which has a really decent sized lot, they can't do live from there. They can do live from the town council room
Right.
and from the senior center. The
Senior
only
center,
two
right.
locations you can do live from. The other ones, just like this one, only can be recorded, and that's similar to the library.
Right, but anybody can. they can
But we're
just
gonna
take
have a video, a person there with a vid, so there'll be somebody actually
Okay,
doing it, so it should come out nicely, and then in perpetuity, it's available as because she's gonna work on it, I do a nice job on it, it sounds like, so. So that's that, and then,
so then we could do a link from our website.
of course, yeah, yeah.
Pollinators.
Mhm. So I'm just hoping to get a nice graphic digital notice. And if somebody else can't do it, I can try, but I don't have the software, I don't have the skill set or the time,
Well, the
but
town should be put posting of the
Yeah.
event.
Mhm.
And I think it's just a question of, the easiest thing might be to do is just, if you bring it up, copy the link, the right to that news event, and just put it out to the distribution, to anybody's list.
yeah, I mean, as just a thing, but
Yeah.
sometimes you get a little poster, it's a link and it's like it's kind of attractive. It's got some
It's a
code.
PDF flyer or something.
Exactly, PDF
But-
flyer,
But
yeah.
that's usually what the news, if you go in and look at.
Yeah.
the
How do you
ground
do,
thing,
what kind of software would you do to make one of those? Like
Yeah.
Bruce did, remember Bruce did that nice one for our plastics event. He did a really nice digital flyer and it was both digital and you could print it and just stick it up around town.
Without getting into complicated software, I use PowerPoint to create
Yeah.
and then save the PDF. You can pretty much do anything.
It's just links, right?
Okay.
So,
No, it's not links. It's just a digital.
no, I know that, but what I'm saying is that, I'm looking for the news.
I can do stuff on PowerPoint,
Yeah.
So I know some people are good at it. you know.
Right, I'm just saying that's, a lot of people have a Canva, whatever, I mean, there's lots of software.
All that stuff.
But PowerPoint's like easy, and I mean, unless you're doing really complex stuff, PowerPoint.
And you can save a PowerPoint as PDF.
Yes,
One
you can.
page. Okay. So if somebody else doesn't step up, I'll make an attempt. I'm leaving town shortly, but, okay, so anyway, and I gotta talk to her about this, but there's lots of invasive species still on the town tree list. So that town tree list needs to be,
Oh, that's
that's my
interesting.
understanding. That was a complaint I got at GCA from somebody.
So the town's gonna spend money to plant invasive species?
Well, I mean, we have been historically, because there
Well,
wasn't, things like Norway maples are invasive,
Rose Rugosa,
what?
Rose Rugosa.
Yeah, stuff like that is, so,
Exactly.
so those lists need to be modified.
Modified, yeah.
And so anyway, I think those, and then the other thing is the plastic issue. Apparently there's, I'm hearing complaints that there's a lot of non-compliance. I remember when we first put it
Right,
through,
yeah, there was compliance.
there was pretty good compliance, and then the whole thing was you would get a warning, or you would be notified, and then you would get, if you were notified and then you were checked back on and there was not compliance, then there would be enforcement and a fine. So certain members of GCA and I are gonna go out and trolling for violators. No, because they have been, there's certain businesses who, yeah.
So Dave, what's what I don't want is them to be, I don't mind them uncovering something, but they should provide it into a town place, then the town should take the action, not.
Well, it had to come from a citizen's
No,
complaint.
no, the citizens complaint, but where does it go to in the town?
That was, we never really defined
That's a
that.
good, and I wasn't here for when the regs were written and
We,
stuff like that.
this group wrote,
Right? Does anyone
Your
remember?
predecessor wrote.
All right, I'll have to find it.
so it was a little vague, but there was a fine.
No, but I mean, there was a process in terms of
It
what would
says who's
happen,
supposed-
but not how we get the complaints in, so I'm trying to provide a little.
We may need to create
Some
that.
sort of a
process.
zoning enforcement.
Yeah, that's what I would assume. It's all,
But
And it's $150 for
Is
the
there,
first.
is there,
It might have been the same way as the blight complaints.
yeah, light complaint, yeah, or something maybe.
That's in your
That's, I'd like to get that
yeah, I know, yeah.
to you so that you have a place to send stuff to. and
Okay,
not-
that'd be great, yeah, because I know in the past, like, I went to Panera and I walked in, there was plastic straws, and I said, oh, so I asked for the manager, I said, I don't know if you're aware of this, and but there's an ordinance, I sent him, I'll email the owner, oh my God, we had no idea, and I've never seen another plastic straw in there ever since. But now we're talking about
Like a
some,
powerhouse.
well, no, but I mean, it's like, it's just,
serious, that's good.
no, people don't know, like, they don't want to be bad, but there's certain businesses that are deliberately flouting it, like, for example, Dunkin' Donuts, who are
What a shock.
fully aware because she attended,
yeah,
the
she
owner of the 6 local Dunkin' Donuts attended every single meeting to fight the ordinance and has now chosen apparently
Now,
that's hearsay. I can't say, but that's what I've been.
I don't go Dunkin'
I was gonna
Donuts.
ask, so, because I've seen this in other places like Westerly and whatnot, that COVID was, they basically relaxed all.
Pretty much, they
Yeah.
you kind of, you have free reigns.
And we
during
did.
COVID.
They've been taking care, like everyone's been living off, there's so many terms, but on the coattails of COVID saying,
Right.
oh, You know, it's,
COVID.
you know, we've been, for 2 years,
we
it's never
did
been
too,
an
didn't we?
issue,
Yeah,
you know,
we
like.
did.
Yeah.
There was a
We
relaxation.
gave a like an extension or
6
something,
months,
but
but
we
that's
didn't know
expired.
COVID was gonna last like.
So technically, it's expired and they need to be found ordinance.
There hasn't been any enforcement
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah, yeah.
But there hasn't been any reports either.
Yeah.
But so now some reports are gonna start coming in.
It was your enforcement officer.
Yeah, so it's,
It's
I'm
like
sure
a
it's
light,
some, I'm sure it's
complaint.
some,
That's good.
The vigilantes are ready to roll.
And so we, yeah, you can get that out there, and then you got the word that here's where you send your observation to.
Just let me know and I'll get that out there.
Yeah, get that out to all the GCA and lots of members. Get the truth moving. Okay, anything else?
You got the title of the talk done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have,
I have one
Make it
item
stop.
from the commission. This is actually dovetailed perfectly into what you were just talking
I
about.
had one more thing.
I did see somebody, or we stopped at some place, my wife and I, and they're giving out plastic straws. There's no attempt here in Groton,
In town.
in town. So I think it's the little places, I think management is maybe has changed, Lloyd's
They
has
just-
changed. and-
nice little, hey, by the way, I don't know if you know, but there's a fine if you don't do it. And here's the ordinance and boy, just please follow it. So you don't have to get fined. And most of them are gonna be like, oh, okay.
So, just 2 items. One is, been trying to get in touch with SCARA to find out what Groton's waste stream is to both Lisbon for the burning as well as the recycling to Willimantic Waste Paper. And it's been frustrating. You email it, nothing. You talk to them on the phone. What's your email? Here it is, nothing. So it's, and some of it's right to Dave. Already I'm talking to him. So I apparently have to stay after that. Because there's been a lot of articles about recycling, particularly right now, glass is a huge problem. Apparently broken glass put in your recycling bin is bad. I didn't know that because as the sharp edges will catch on other plastics or other material attached to it. And then it comes time for separating, it doesn't separate.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So the whole issue about markets for good quality glass is out there. There's a major corporation that's working out of Connecticut that recycles glass. Their emphasis is on clean jars, clean wine bottles, whatever. And that message just isn't getting out there for the need. So there's lots of little things that are happening. A lot of companies are looking for good quality product on recycling, which leads into this next one that at work, they've gotten a grant to work with something called Netrex, Nextrex. And it's recycling plastic bags. So the very bags that we outlawed in Groton, they want. They are.
So there's different kinds of plastic in bags.
Right, well, there are bread bags, bubble wrap, newspaper sleeves. So my newspaper comes in an envelope, ice bags, pallet wrap and stretch film, salt bags. These are cereal bags, Ziploc and other food storage bags, bread bags. We have at work, they've gotten into this program where if they go to schools and they set goals for collecting this material. And if you can generate within 6 months, 500 pounds worth of the stretch plastic and deliver it to a source that will take it from you and then put it into the reusable waste stream, you get a prize. And so we've engaged in this. And our problem is that we're not a school, we work with schools, but we don't have tons of kids coming to the school, coming to our building like a normal school does. So we're outreaching to work with elementary schools and so forth to help. And one of the other ways is that in order to bulk up to try to get up to this 500 pounds, that we've actually contacted local stores who take like bread bags, things like that, and actually put them into a recycling bin and make it available to anybody who's in this program to use toward your weight.
So the
Yeah,
concept is having a unique in some place that people take their bags to.
Right. So in our case, in order to get credit for however much you gather, because we have in our office a big box for you bring in from home or wherever, and it very slowly is rising up. And when you need 500 pounds,
That's a lot of.
A lot of plastic.
it's a very lot of
Can
plastic.
we
So-
bring our plastic to you at these meetings?
Possibly. But we're getting from a store over in New London, a grocery store in New London is passing their bags to us. They gather up once a week. And it adds about 50 pounds, I think, to their bag. Then from there, we gather whatever we can and we take it to, I believe we have a Stop and Shop. So there's a whole series of stores within the state of Connecticut that receive this material. Stop and Shop, I think Big Y have recycling bins within the store that I'm not aware of. I don't know how.
For that, because that's,
And I don't know how, because before we instituted the plastic bag to take it out of the waste stream, some stores were actually gathering them.
Right.
And as you walked in, your old ones you put in and then they were recycling. Well, apparently as part of this is a company that's out in the Midwest somewhere. And they use this material into making plastic things.
you said bubble wrap is in that?
Bubble wrap
Decking
is
and
in there.
Because I have a ton of bubble wrap to get rid of. This is a great place to do that.
Check the
So-
You know
website
what?
out. It's got-
They've got a great website that talks about it. They're trying to engage communities, stores,
I thought
education.
There's no aftermarket for this stuff anymore, so this is.
I didn't either, but
Yes.
these are small scale. Next Trex could be also, some of it goes into Trex flooring.
Yeah, fine, yeah, mhm.
That used to be in China.
Uh,
They stopped doing it.
Well, there was a place that survived out of Seattle or maybe Washington out west. But the problem is that how do you get it from here to there?
Yeah.
And so within this website, if you go to their website, Nextrex, it talks about once you deliver to like Stop and Shop, and if you can generate in your town a great deal of this material, will help you to supply you with balers, bale it up into 500-pound bales, and we will send the semi truck in to pick this stuff up and haul it away for free, et cetera, et cetera. It's a wonderful concept, but it's one where when you're throwing things away or you're putting things into recycling, how many recycling bins are
Are you gonna wind up with?
you gonna wind
That's
up?
the reality. You gotta have a
And
lot
that's-
to actually do it correctly.
Right.
Lot.
So anyway, that is out there and it's we're working on it. We're working through the problems along the way. So it'll be interesting to see sometime this spring, we're supposed to be finished with that 6-month honeymoon to see how successful it might be in the community, actually trying to install it in the community, get people involved with it. So I just wanted to bring that forward.
Okay.
Can I make 2 comments on that? One is that I have noticed since we got the plastic ban ordinance through, almost no plastic bags in trees anymore. I mean, I think it's visibly different now. If you note to yourself.
Yeah, they were all over.
They were plastic bags, just kind of whoosh, and then there are not now. So
Right.
that's one thing. And secondly, UPS store up, Coogan Boulevard or up past the aquarium and all that, on the right, there's a UPS store.
Yeah,
I take clean bubble wrap and those packing pillows to her. I just give her a big bag and she takes them and uses them again. That's just, I don't know if she's not officially doing it, but she always very nicely.
One of the
takes them,
things
so.
I did mention, that when you dig down into their website, they finally talk about what not to do with all this. And one of them is the biggest culprit to collecting all these bags, moisture. And so if you've got it mixed in with something else, or you've got it out at the curb and it rains, it's. So there are,
it's tough. I mean, it's still the easiest thing is not to have it to begin with. Because remember the whole cost analysis we did?
sure,
Just that cost on the back end, it's enormous. I mean.
Right, but this is stuff that, none of these stuff fit into the ban. I mean, this is stuff that's allowed.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's, it'd be,
Right, yeah.
so this is the allowed stuff.
Right.
Which is awesome that there's a way to do something with the allowed
Yeah,
plastics.
find some place to do it. Right now, I don't know what to do with those newspaper baggies. And
Right,
red-
there's tons of
Red
stuff.
bags.
Yeah.
For now, they're being combusted, so I'm just putting
Yeah,
them
no,
in the
I
garbage.
put
And
them
you're
in
like,
the garbage
burn
because they're not,
energy.
right.
yeah, you can't really recycle them per se when they're mixed in with everything else. All right. Yeah, all right. Nothing? Tom?
The only thing I had additionally was that like I mentioned before, I'll be at the ECCD meeting on Wednesday this week, and then I'll be continuing to review the remainder of the stewardship plans for corrections based on where we had, like, a good example is like the Lamphir Avenue one. There's a lot of parcels that come out right now. I'm not gonna, we'll see how this all falls out, but in regard to any more cancellations or modifications, I'll have those all ready for next month's meeting.
Then I don't know if you found out why that happened too, because when I was looking at yours with the Lamphir, so it was, it was a big subdivision. That subdivision expired, so they got remerged back together. So I'm like, oh, I'm like, because I was trying to find all the ones you had, and I'm like, I can't find them because they were already remerged, the town had already remerged them, so.
That happened the first time I was doing the map of the properties, there's one list with the stuff and you look at the actual thing, it's like,
Yeah,
but then you realize that, oh, these two added together to that one, and yeah.
Just very briefly, also, I just met with somebody who, just by chance, I just ran into her and met her. She's involved at Brantford Manor. She's housing opportunities. She's like repatriating the people back in the houses, making sure everything's okay over there. But she was very excited about the pollinator ideas. She said, wouldn't it be great if we could, after all these people, all the things those people at Brantford Manor have been through, if we could plant a pollinator garden for them in the spring. I said, that's a great idea. And I think,
Aren't they gonna have to refurbish those apartments?
I think that they've been in process and
Until
actually,
that's done.
no, I believe they've been refurbished and the people just don't want to go back because they're so traumatized.
Okay.
So I believe they're now supposedly okay. That's what she said. Anyway,
Well, there's a
But-
lawsuit that just. federal
yeah,
lawsuit.
that's all separate from the idea that these people at Brantford Manor have been through the ringer. And there might be, I felt like there'd be a lot of community support. There's a lot of community guilt about what they've been through, and that a pollinator garden for them might be just a gesture that would be well received.
Be nice to get their participation as well. make it a
Yes,
full community.
yeah. Absolutely. I think she might have some funding.
Okay, which leads us to,
Yeah, and like I said, I got my little to-dos on here anyways, but I think the last thing, like I already talked to you all about, is the budget, so just let us know, because we're in the process of going through the budget right now, so if you said, especially for some of these that are tangible items that aren't a lot of money, I think we can make it work.
now, I mean, are you, oh, okay, I know what you're gonna say.
Well, one of the things is in the prior budgets, based on what's in P O C D, there's supposed to be a $25,000 per year input into the budget for
Commission?
For building up
Dedicated
the
open
fund.
space.
Oh, okay.
acquisition fund, okay? And that's been zeroed out the last couple of years because, oh, we're doing Wolfbrook for whatever reasons and stuff. But that should show back up again, and you may just want to make sure that that was submitted. Because Mr. Reiner's supposed to put that in as is under the CIP 8B, I think it is, or something like that.
Yeah.
B8 or something like that. I
We
can't
have that
remember
fight
the
every
detail.
year.
I'll send you the prior. submissions.
Maybe those, some
I
of
gotta-
those properties that were sold to the town for $1, maybe that open space budget could now give them 100% increase on what was paid for the land.
Remember, you didn't ask Ann if she had any input.
Oh, Ann, I forgot Ann. Hi, Ann. Did you, the report of the commission, you're muted. Did you
No,
have-
nothing for me. I'm still working on my report with the city versus town. I was traveling in November and
Okay,
so-
and I forwarded that information to try and link you together with that consultant. That was,
yes, thank you.
okay. Back to you.
That's all I got.
That's all you
Yeah.
I move we adjourn.
got? May I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Nope,
You're always there.
It's-
I figured out that we were done and I made the motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Oh, yeah, okay, and votes yes. So we're done. Yeah,
She was on top of that one.
That's all very proactive, you know, like.
she is proactive. Thank you.
Leadership ability.
All
They
right.
have a name for that. It's
Aye.
it's just, there's some kind of leadership name for when you're in the group.
Participatory